Reincarnation and the concept of past lives has been around for thousands of years. Over the years, there have been stories that suggest this could be true. Recent studies have shown that around 51% of the world's population believe in some form of afterlife, with around 7% believing that we are ultimately reincarnated. Some people believe that déjà vu is a form of reincarnation because you are reliving what your past life lived. Over 5 years ago, a 21-year-old Navy pilot was on a mission over the Pacific. During this mission, however, he was unfortunately taken down by Japanese artillery. The reason we know of his name, however, is because of a toddler named James Linger. When he first started speaking about the pilot, his parents began questioning him. They would pick up on the fact he would say things like "plane on fire," "little man can't get out." What's bizarre is this would happen when the boy had only started talking. What's incredible though is over time James's parents were able to put together an amazing story. It was the life of James Huston. He was able to give details about the man's life. For example, James told his father that he was flying with a friend named Jack Larson. After some research, it turned out that Jack Larson was real. Many people think this isn't a coincidence. How could a young toddler know these kind of details? Now of course cases like this do have skeptics, but for the most part people do believe this case to be a real mystery. Regarding reincarnation, another thing people point to is memories and fears. How can you be scared of something when you're young if that specific thing has never happened to you? For example, some believe that if you have a fear of water, something bad in a past life could have happened. When you read about some of the other cases, it really does make you wonder how these people know these specific details. Another case is that of James Flowerdew. He was an English captain from Norfolk, England, and gave detailed recollections of the ancient city of Petra in Jordan. From his adolescence, he would have visions of a stone city. It turned out that he was seeing this ancient city, and was able to give detailed descriptions of it. He was able to lead archaeologists to uncover certain details they didn't know before. These photographs have appeared online showing what looks like a giant glowing bird. Due to this being a recent sighting, there isn't much information about it. The photographs appear to show a large object that can be seen emitting light. The photographs were taken in October 2018 in Brazil. Some believe the object in question is a UFO. Brazil is known to be a hotspot for UFO sightings, and over the years there have been many reports. One person said this object happened near their home, and that many people did witness it. However, they said the bright object did not stick around for long, only a couple of minutes. This sighting has been posted to various social media sites, and some have said that although they didn't see the craft, they have seen something similar. One man said that while driving home from work he encountered a large bird. He said that it didn't look like anything he'd seen before, so he pulled over to get a better look. The man estimated the bird was flying around 75 to 100 feet in the air, and even at that height he could tell it was large. These kind of creatures have been witnessed all over the world, and sightings follow a similar theme. These animals are always said to be large and appear to look like giant eagles. This has caused some to believe there is a new giant species of eagle out there that is currently unknown. Some have even suggested it could be a thunderbird. The thunderbird is a cryptozoological creature associated with large bird-like animals. Most of the sightings happen around northern Canada and Alaska, but they have also been sighted in Central America. Similar animals often appear in Native American mythology. These ancient tribes talk about large flying creatures that would sometimes attack them and large animals. Since pioneers began moving west across the North American plains, sightings of large birds have been reported. Similar stories appear from civilizations around the world. Sightings of large bird-like creatures have been reported for many years, at least since people began settling further west in the United States and Canada. One of the most famous reports is from 1890, where two Arizona cowboys claimed to have captured a large bird. It was described as having no feathers and had a head similar to that of an alligator. The two men supposedly dragged the bird back to their town. The report seems to suggest this creature looked more like a pterosaur or a dragon than any modern day bird. Many of us believe in the paranormal. This could be due to our own experiences or hearing other people's stories. A 2015 survey by Chapman University found that more than 40% of Americans believe that places can be haunted by spirits. Recently, a woman has come forward and explained her relationship. Amethyst Realm has announced that she is ready to take her otherworldly relationship to the next level. She's been open about the fact that she's in a relationship with a ghost, and is now planning to marry her partner. She said the following about how the ghost proposed. "Halfway through a tour we was on, he told me he wanted me to hang back from the group. That's when it happened. There was no going down on one knee because he doesn't have knees, but for the first time I heard him speak. It's hard to explain, but until that point his words were inside my head, but on that day the words were outside. I could actually hear his voice and it was beautiful." She has announced that she would love to have children with the ghost. How that's going to work though is still up for debate. Although this may sound bizarre, some believe that paranormal beings are able to communicate with humans. The traditional view of ghosts is that they are spirits of people that for some reason are stuck between this plane of existence and the next, often as a result of some tragedy or trauma. Many ghost hunters and psychics believe that such earthbound spirits don't know they've moved on. Occasionally, someone will have a one-time encounter with the ghost of someone they knew who's recently passed away. This could be at a location that is many miles away from where they passed. There are other paranormal entities that have come to be known as non-intelligent hauntings. These are thought to be a collection of residual energy signals. These don't always appear in a human form. Sometimes they can be a shadow or an orb. These residual hauntings normally perform repetitive actions. For example, a ghostly figure walking up the same set of stairs each night. They have often been compared to a recording that just continues to repeat over and over again. Non-believers however say that humans are simply scared, and that we like to think there is something else after we pass. The thought of eternal darkness will ruin many people's day. UFOs interest many of us. For some, these are nothing more than conventional aircrafts. However, there are those that believe these crafts come from another world. Their proof is that the way these objects behave. They have been seen showing extreme speeds and also defying gravity. Some suggest these crafts are extraterrestrial in nature. However, skeptics point to the fact that many of these sightings and encounters can be explained. For example, man-made crafts and weather phenomena play a huge role in UFO sightings. From certain angles or time in the days, objects can appear to be different. It's believed, however, that 5 to 15% of UFO sightings are never explained, leading theorists to hold on to hope that something more intelligent than us is out there. A man from Canada named Stefan McCulloch encountered a UFO. What makes this case different though is that he has burn marks to support his story. In 1967, Stefan McCulloch was enjoying the weekend out in the Whiteshell Park. This is located around 75 miles from his home. It's a place known for its wilderness and having a rich deposit of minerals. He had heard stories about people finding silver and thought he would try his luck. On the 19th of May, McCulloch travelled from his home and stayed the night in a hotel. When it was the morning, he headed out for a day of prospecting. For the first half of the day he was busy digging. However, at around 12:15 something strange happened. He could hear a flock of geese that seemed to be panicked. He looked up to where the geese were and could see 2 cigar-shaped objects in the sky. These crafts were flying rapidly towards the ground. However, as the crafts got lower, he could tell the UFOs were more disc in shape. He noticed that one of the unidentified flying objects stayed in the sky, while another one landed around 150 feet away from where he was standing. Strangely, the craft in the sky suddenly changed from orange to grey and flew off, disappearing into the clouds. McCulloch's focus was then on the objects that landed on the ground. He picked up on the fact it changed colour and reminded him of hot metal that glowed. Then suddenly a huge flash of light was ejected from the objects, temporarily blinding him. He was able to sketch the craft that he encountered. It was approximately 40 feet in diameter and 10 feet high. Suddenly, while looking at the craft, a vent opened and hit him right in the chest with hot gas. It caused his shirt to set on fire and cause severe pain. As he tore off his burning clothes, he saw the UFO one last time. Interestingly, the area where the craft was showed signs of it being there. A 15 feet diameter clearing had broken twigs and leaves that were blown away. The burn marks could be seen on his chest, and he suffered with the typical symptoms after encountering a UFO. He had headaches and nausea. After being questioned by the government and professionals, they couldn't discredit him. Up until now, nobody has been able to explain Michalek's story. His case still remains a mystery. So what do you guys think he encountered that night? Some believe it could have been an experimental aircraft, while others believe this could have been a genuine UFO encounter. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The Piri Reis map is the oldest map to show the Americas, and to this day it still confuses many people. In 1929, a group of historians discovered something incredible drawn on a gazelle skin. After the document was studied, research and tests showed that it was genuine. It was drawn in 1513 by Piri Reis, a famous admiral of the Turkish fleet in the 16th century. What's interesting is that he was primarily known today for his maps and charts, specifically for how accurate they are. He was highly ranked within the Turkish Navy. However, he went on to say that he copied certain pieces of data from other sources. One thing that many people question is why it shows Antarctica without ice. Antarctica was mostly icy forest, and for the last 15 million years, it has been a frozen desert under a thick sheet of ice. On the map, the northern coastline of Antarctica is detailed. Another thing that stands out is the map is very accurate. How did this happen when the map was created 300 years before it was discovered? Interestingly, on the 6th of July 1960, the US Air Force responded to a letter sent by Professor Charles Hapgood. He was asking for an evaluation of the ancient map. This was the response. Dear Professor Hapgood, your request of evaluation of certain unusual features on the Piri Reis Antarctic map of 1513 by this organization has been reviewed. They claim that the lower part of the map portrays the Princess Martha coast of Queen Maud Land, and the Palmer Peninsula is reasonable. We find that this is the most logical, and in all probability the correct interpretation of the map. The geographical detail shows in the lower part of the map agrees very remarkably with the results of the seismic profile made across the top of the ice cap. This was made by the Swedish-British Antarctic Expedition of 1949. This indicates the coastline has been mapped before it's covered by the ice cap. This part of Antarctica is ice-free. The ice cap in this region is now about a mile thick. We have no idea how the data on this map can be reconciled with the supposed state of geographical knowledge in 1513. Harold Z. Omer, Lieutenant Colonel of the United States Air Force Commander. So as mentioned, there are some conflicting reports. How can this map show Antarctica with no ice? Scientists state there has been ice on the continent for millions of years. Many experts have analysed the map and realise it portrays an accurate depiction of the world. 3 separate pilots were left asking questions when they encountered mysterious lights in the sky. The incident occurred on Friday the 9th of November. This was when a British Airways pilot contacted Shannon Air Traffic Control. The first thing the pilot wanted to know was if there was any military planes or exercises in that area. The reason being because she could see objects that were moving around really fast. Air Traffic Control said there were no exercises taking place. However, it was then reported that 2 other pilots contacted Group Control, saying that they could see multiple objects travelling at high speeds. Air Traffic Control once again reported there were no military exercises, and that there was nothing showing on either primary or secondary radar. The pilot said the following: "It was moving so fast. We saw a bright light and it then just disappeared at very high speeds." The pilot said they were not on a collision route with the object but just wondered what it was. Air Traffic Control then reported the third pilot said they were happy they weren't the only ones that saw the objects. It was reported that the UFO was moving at incredible speeds, around Mach 2. This is 2,500 km per hour, and is twice the speed of sound. However, pilots who were not involved in the sightings have offered their theories, and believe there is a more plausible explanation than that of an alien visit. One pilot had a theory for what the objects could have been. They said that a few times while flying they'd see mysterious objects in the sky, but after doing some research on their own they came to a conclusion. They said it could have been meteors hitting the planet's atmosphere. When the two come together it can generate a strange glow in the sky. However, even with this theory, the Irish Aviation Authority will investigate the incident. Whenever something mysterious is discovered in space, people get excited. This is usually because people link it to life outside of our planet. An image released by NASA shows what appears to be a green anomaly on the edge of Jupiter. As you can imagine, many people got excited by this discovery. It soon spread through websites and people began to give their opinions for what it could be. One person had this to say: "There are many kinds of photographs out there showing these kinds of anomalies. For some reason you can always find them on the outside of the planet. It almost looks as if it's hovering. However, there's thought to be a more logical explanation. Some have come forward and said it's the aurora of Jupiter, similar to what we have here on Earth. But there are still those that don't believe this and think it could be something otherworldly. So what do you guys make of this discovery? Let me know your thoughts in the comments." Going back a few years, humans thought the Earth was not just unique, but also the centre of the entire universe. Later on, scientific investigations proved us completely wrong. Our planet is not even in the centre of our solar system, and there is a big possibility we are not unique. Whether the Earth is unique or not, no one can say for sure. Currently, we have the technology to search for other exoplanets, and that makes it a lot easier to find other possible Earth-like planets. However, this is easier said than done. There are hundreds of billions of planets in the universe, and trying to find a planet that is Earth-like is no easy task. Currently, we can only search for signs of life that are in the Milky Way galaxy. According to the research that has been published in 2015, scientists claim there may be many large galaxies that might be producing a larger amount of Earth-like planets. This could be the answer to our question whether the Earth is unique or not. It seems that the next step for humans will be colonizing Mars. NASA is already putting a plan together for the Red Planet. Other countries are also interested in exploring Mars. Although this planet is close by in terms of the universe, it's still a big leap forward for humans. It will put us on a path of space exploration, and could mean that one day in the near future we could encounter something otherworldly. Back in 1966, something mysterious happened that left many people wanting answers. Two men were found to be motionless. However, this case would take a mysterious turn when they were found with strange objects. This case is yet to be explained. The men's plans and deaths were odd enough. This is because they were both in good health and not old. Not just that, but both of them had passed away. The case has come to be known as the Lead Mask case. On the 17th of August 1966, two electronic repairmen left their town and went to search for supplies. This was thought to be for one of their cars and for work. It was said they had money on them to buy these items. After this, the men decided to stop at a bar to pick up some water. The bartender that was working had picked up on the fact that one of the men named Miguel wanted to get going. The bartender went on to say they both seemed short for time, and they kept checking their watches. It was noted this was the last time anyone would see the men alive. 3 days later, the men were discovered on Vintem Hill in Rio de Janeiro. The police were then called and they began an investigation. However, the investigation took a strange turn when it was discovered the men had strange items on them. It was reported that both men were dressed in smart suits and had waterproof coats on. Both men had lead masks with no holes in. There was also water bottles, a notebook and a towel. As if this isn't strange enough, the notebook just confused the investigators even more. It contained the following: 1630 be at agreed place, 1830 swallow capsules, after effect protect metals, wait for mask signal. One theory that was put forward was the men had the mask because they were expecting radioactivity. However, later tests showed that no radiation was detected near the area. Another theory is that they were trying to contact extraterrestrials. It was reported that strange lights were seen in the skies a few days earlier, and this could have been why the men did what they did. Another theory is that the men took the capsules to try and contact the aliens via telepathy. However, the diary entry says to meet at a arranged place. Arranged would mean they'd already spoken to someone prior to this event. This has made some think that whoever they were meeting may have lured them into an ambush. The diary entry along with the mysterious details haven't helped this case, and over the years many theories have been put forward. These people encountered something strange while in the woods. They had this to say. A couple yards away from my house is a woods behind someone's house. This woods is not normal. I believe there are paranormal creatures lurking throughout there as well as spirits. So here's my story. Almost a year ago, me and my 3 friends were walking around in another neighbourhood that was across the woods. Me and my 2 friends decided to leave, but our other friend decided to stay. We got to my house but something just didn't feel right. We decided to go back and get him, and I stayed in the middle of the woods while my other friends were near the end. I had a bad feeling. We heard a loud bang, and a lizard-like creature emerges from the bushes and it started chasing after us. This creature was faster than the average human, and it was running on 2 legs. I looked back but I didn't see it anymore, and that was the last time we ever saw it again. Most of these descriptions follow a similar theme. Recently I uploaded a video where I covered the lizard man of Scapel Swamp. This creature has been witnessed several times around the swamplands of Lee County, South Carolina. It's also believed that the creature lives in the sewers in towns near the swamp. Most of the witnesses describe the lizard man as being over 7 feet tall. The creature is said to have a large build and is covered with scaly lizard-like skin on its hands, feet and face. It's said to have 3 toes in each foot and 3 fingers on each hand. During the 1980s and the 1990s, the creature was reported to have been witnessed several times. Over the years, people have come forward with their encounters, and they're all very similar. They describe a large lizard-like creature chasing them away from their location. These creatures are big and don't seem like humans. Whenever someone encounters this creature, it usually involves them leaving the scene. The only real evidence of this creature are footprints and clumps of hair. Photographs that have been put forward are fake or photoshopped. It sounds far-fetched what people are seeing, but even law enforcement has got involved. 2 officers took molds of the footprints that were left behind, and it remains a mystery as to what they belong to. However, skeptics say the footprints were made by pranksters. Sightings have decreased dramatically, and to this day no one truly knows what these people are witnessing. It sounds like something from a movie, but every year people go missing in national parks. In fact, the numbers are thought to be in the thousands. Sadly, although many of these people never return, some have, and their stories have creeped out and confused many people. It's fair to say that national parks are not the safest places. There are many places where someone could get lost, whether that be going the wrong way and straying off a path or getting injured and not being able to walk. What some have also picked up on is the fact that the National Park Services has no database on missing people. The fact these people go missing in their parks, you'd think they would have some kind of tracking system, but because of this no one really knows how many people are currently missing in parks. There's also the sheer volume of missing people cases that would qualify as especially strange. One example is that of Stephen Kubacki. In February 1978, Stephen, who is a German student, went missing in the Great Lakes Triangle. It's a place that is known for its disappearance of hundreds of ships. Stephen said that he was going to go skiing, and this was backed up when his skis were found. They were found close to Lake Michigan. It was reported that Stephen was missing. Incredibly, 15 months later, Stephen knocked on his father's door and said that he doesn't remember what happened. He woke up over 700 miles away wearing different clothing. Stephen said that he didn't know how long he was gone for. He was considered a sane man and holds a PhD in clinical psychology. To this day, this case remains a mystery. A Reddit user who works for the national parks had this to say: "I worked for the National Park Service for 25 years, and my father did before me and my brother does now. I seem to recall that one example that was presented to me was untrue, and that other cases were not covered up. When someone disappears in a national park, there is a major search effort that usually involves multiple agencies. It's funded out of a major case fund, not the park's budget, so there's no reason to cut resources. Searches go on for days, sometimes longer, utilising helicopters, foot searches, horseback searches, interviews, trackers and other resources. It's true that some people are not found right away, and there have been a few that have never been found, or whose bodies have been located but in places that can't be accessed. All of these cases are explainable. There's nothing mysterious about them. So what do you make of these disappearances? Do you think something paranormal is at play? Or do you think people are not taking care of themselves when they're out in the parks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Every so often the police will encounter things they can't explain. Some police have reported encounters with the paranormal. One place where police have encountered things they can't explain is the Navajo Reservation of the American Southwest. This location is known for mysterious and legendary stories, and the police here have encountered some strange things. Everything from apparitions to UFOs have been seen here. One specific creature that has been encountered is known as a skinwalker. In many Native American legends, a skinwalker is a person with the supernatural ability to turn into any creature. What makes these creatures hard to spot is the fact they can transform when they like. This helps them to blend in wherever they please. It's thought though that these creatures like to take the form of a coyote, wolf, fox, eagle or owl. The Navajo believe that if you lock eyes with a skinwalker, they can absorb themselves into your body. When police report these kind of encounters, they can be dismissed and mocked. The police at Navajo Reservation however have a different view on things. The NNR takes these cases very seriously, and will look into and try to understand each report. The reservation gives people somewhere to go for such cases. They have allowed people to talk to them, and have their cases investigated. One case was reported as the following. An unnamed person was driving late at night when they encountered something strange. Their headlights were reflecting a creature's eyes. However, this was an animal they had never seen before. As they drove towards the creature, it started running towards the car. The person put the car into reverse and tried to get out of there as quickly as they could. They said the creature looked to be humanoid in appearance, but was only around 2 feet tall. To this day they have no idea what they encountered. After investigations, a few cases have revealed some bizarre findings. Unexplained lights have been seen flying at high speeds. Some of these lights give off multiple colours and seem to defy the laws of physics. Others have reported seeing portals open up and then seeing these strange glowing objects fly into them. Glowing orbs have also been reported. They typically fly close to the ground and then shoot up vertically at tremendous speeds. The police have backed up these claims as they themselves have seen the strange phenomena. Whether people are telling the truth, something that's interesting is that police are coming forward with their testimonies. These strange events are still happening, and it seems even the police are no closer to finding out the truth. Nostradamus was born in December 1503 in the south of France. Both of his grandfathers were scholars and instructed Nostradamus themselves when he was young. One of his grandfathers was a physician, and the other taught him classical languages. This French astrologer and physician published collections of prophecies that earned him fame and a loyal following during his lifetime. In the centuries since his death, people have credited him with accurately predicting pivotal events in history. According to Nostradamus, the world is slated to end in the year 3797. Little is known of his childhood, but evidence indicates he was very intelligent as he quickly advanced through school. Early in his life, he was tutored by his maternal grandfather, who saw great intellect and potential in his grandson. During this time, young Nostradamus was taught Latin, Greek, Hebrew and mathematics. It's believed that his grandfather also introduced him to the ancient rites of Jewish tradition and the celestial sciences of astrology, giving Nostradamus his first exposure to the idea of the heavens and how they would drive human destiny. These are some of Nostradamus' predictions for 2019. Nostradamus' prophecies foresees that 2019 is going to be a year of justice. It's believed that bad weather is also due to hit many parts of the world. It's thought that earthquakes and hurricanes will occur in many states of America. The year lacks financial prosperity, but this only encourages us to design strategies that could improve things. Things like the stock market is going to balance out and people in general will be more healthy. Nostradamus predicts the climate changes will continue to affect the planet, and the political leaders will come to an agreement regarding the reduction of air pollutant emissions. The prophet said the following: "We shall see the water rising and the earth falling underneath it." The climate changes is the most common prediction for our future, and this prophecy is backed up. It's thought there will be many hurricanes which will hit the US during 2019. Places like Texas and Florida must be prepared to face the bad weather. One interesting thing Nostradamus came out with is that people will get closer to animals than ever, and suggesting that we will be able to speak with animals. He claimed that humans will be closer to animals than their fellow men. He said the following: "The pigs will become brothers to man." Humans have strong feelings towards animals, so this one might not be far from the truth. In 1973, a computer program was developed at MIT to model global sustainability. However, it ended up doing something that surprised many. It predicted that by 2040 everything living on Earth would come to an end. Over the years there have been many people that have made claims about our world ending, but this computer could be onto something. After all, the date of our supposed extinction hasn't come yet according to the computer. This world-ending prediction was made by a computer named World 1. What World 1 showed us was that global expansion will cause our demise, and this will happen by 2040. Worryingly, that's just over 20 years away, and if correct, will happen during many of our lifetimes. The program reported the following: "At around 2020, the condition of the planet becomes highly critical. If we do nothing about it, the quality of life goes down to zero. Population becomes so serious it will start to affect people, which in turn will cause the population to diminish lower than it was in 1900. At this stage, around 2040 to 2050, civilized life as we know it on the planet will cease to exist." Although worrying, there is a way we can counter these claims, but even some scientists have said that if we don't change our ways, our demise could come a reality. Another person who allegedly saw into the future was Baba Vanga. From a young age, Vanga lost her sight. However, that didn't stop her and she became well known in her local village. She was taken to a school for the blind. She spent 3 years there and she got taught to read, clean, cook and even play the piano. Unlike Nostradamus, she never wrote any books herself. She mostly spoke to people and gave them wise words. She'd been visited by thousands of celebrities from all over the world: presidents, business leaders, politicians, writers, philosophers and even scientists. Many people worldwide believe she possessed paranormal abilities. There are also various 22nd century predictions made by Baba Vanga. Some of them speak of humans turning into cyborgs, live robots, animals becoming half humans, a new religion, signals from space, and even an artificial sun that uses nuclear energy. Interestingly, she also said that by the year 2097 humans find a way to stop and even reverse the aging process. What makes Baba Vanga stand out is that many of her predictions did come true. This led many to believe that she was the real deal. Since the beginning, ancient man has always looked up to the sky. As time has gone on, we've increased our knowledge about what is out there in the universe. One planet that's always caught our attention is the orange dot we see in the sky. This is Mars. Although Mars is smaller than Earth, Mars is the most Earth-like planet we have in our solar system due to its similar geological features. These include things like polar ice caps, mountainous regions and dry riverbeds. It was recently announced by researchers that they had found a body of liquid water on Mars. The scientists said they think this is a lake that sits under the planet's south polar ice cap and is around 12 miles or 20 kilometers across. In the past, studies have been made and we have found in previous research there were signs of liquid water on This was believed to be flowing on the planet itself. However, this is the first sign of a persistent body of water on the planet in the present day. It's just been announced that the InSight spacecraft has made a successful landing on Mars. InSight is short for Interior Exploration Using Seismic Investigations, Geodesy and Heat Transport. This Mars lander is designed to give the red planet its first thorough checkup since its formation 4.5 billion years ago. This has caused excitement among people as it's thought we will find out more details previously unknown. This will be the first piece of equipment to study in depth the inner space of Mars. This includes its crust, mantle and core. Studying Mars's interior structure has always been an interest of NASA. By studying this, it will help us to answer important questions about its early formation. InSight also measures tectonic activity and meteorite impacts on Mars today. The lander uses new instruments to help it to understand the formation of the red planet. This mission is part of NASA's Discovery program, and it will ask critical questions in solar system science. The rocket that launched InSight also launched a separate NASA technology experiment. These are in the form of two mini spacecraft called Mars Cube 1, or Mars Co. These small crafts flew behind InSight. It's said that if these Mars Co's are successful, they could represent a new kind of communication to Earth. The InSight will try to understand how a rocky body forms and evolves to become a planet. It will do this by studying the planet's interior structure. Tectonic activity will also be studied on this mission. Previous NASA missions have studied the surface of the planet, but this mission is focusing on what's below the planet. InSight will give us new information on this mysterious planet. Recently, NASA scientists announced that mysterious sound in space is baffling them. They've said the strange whistling sounds were detected in the Van Allen probe's mission. For those unaware, the Van Allen probes are a pair of donut-shaped robotic spacecrafts which can be found currently orbiting the Earth. NASA uploaded the sounds to their website, but it's their description of the sounds that puzzled many people. They say the sounds can be attributed to different electromagnetic waves, which penetrate almost every single known area of space. A spokesperson for NASA said the following: "Although space is technically a vacuum, it's still full of electrically charged particles, which come into constant interaction with the magnetic and electric fields of the various objects throughout space. What the researchers have now found out is certain particles behave differently depending on what kind of magnetic and electric fields they're interacting with. This is why different planets give off their own noises." Going back a few years, NASA released the sounds of Saturn, and many people said these noises were eerie. These intense radio emissions were picked up by the Cassini spacecraft. The scientists are studying these recordings, and they hope it will give them a better understanding of plasma waves in space. This isn't the only space news. Recently, researchers told us that two large space objects have been picked up by NASA heading towards Earth. However, NASA currently doesn't know what one of them is. The American Space Agency has identified one of the objects as a comet, but is yet to identify the other. Comet C 2016 was discovered by NASA in October 2016, and shortly after its discovery it was seen flying past Earth. The object named 2016 WF9 was detected by NASA's Asteroid and Comet Hunting Project on the 27th of November 2016. It's roughly 0.3 to 0.6 miles across or 0.5 to 1 kilometers, and is on an orbit that takes it on a scenic tour of our solar system. However, engineers at NASA have said they can't identify what it is, with one NASA engineer saying the following: "As of right now, we do not know what this object is. It could have comet origins. The object illustrates the boundaries between asteroids and comets as a blurry one. Perhaps over time it's lost certain features that would allow us to identify it. This object is classified as a near-Earth object, and a potentially hazardous asteroid of the Apollo group." Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.